Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is the Bladedancer using lightning chakrams. Now this was supposed to be a marksman build, but it turns out that you can get way more crit multiplier in the Bladedancer because everything in the marksman is strictly related to the bow, so we ended up leaving that. So I did say there would be two marksman builds today. It turns out there's only going to be the one. However, this one is super fun, and it's not really a Bladedancer or a marksman. I mean, you're playing a throwing build, but this is a really fun lightning build, and we managed to get 4 skills with it that will allow you to summon many shadows, and then the shadows will copy your Shurikens throw. And we're going to be playing with the Chakrams, and again, they're big, they're cool looking, and you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 7 shadows that'll all be throwing them at the same time, and they'll just be going all over the place. And this is a really fun speed running build through the Monolith of Fate. You literally just keep shifting and casting everything on autocast, and if you leave smoke bombs behind you, the shadows that it creates behind you will throw the chakrams even if you're way ahead, and then they'll catch up to you later. So somewhere along the lines you'll have like 5 to 10 chakrams out of nowhere just come up behind you and catch back up. It's really cool. So as you can see in the gameplay that you're watching, it looks cool, it plays good, it's probably the funnest rogue build that I've played. As for viability, it's not a super high-end pusher, the damage is pretty good on it. We cleared through all the Monolith of Fate bosses, we went to 100 waves in the arena, and it's not the most tanky. You have to play with it a certain way, especially for single targets. You kind of have to aim where the shadows are going to throw the chakrams in order to try and get, you know, the hit out and the hit on the way back with it. But overall, super fun build, definitely fun in the models where you can just go nuts with it. And it has a lot of different ways that you can play it. You don't have to use the chakrams, you can actually do the projectiles with shurikens. You can make them, instead of piercing, you can have them shoot in a line so that they can all hit the same target. Like, there's a lot of different things in the tree that you can do with it and find the way that works best for you. However, for me, the chakrams were by far my favorite because of how big they are and how crazy they just go all over the screen. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills. First skills, we're running Decoy, Shift, Synchronized Strike, Smoke Bomb, and Shurikens. For Decoy, Decoy is going to do a huge amount of damage for you, and the main reason that we went for it is, one, since we're stacking a lot of throwing damage, it made sense to use another throwing skill, which is what Decoy does. It stacks a throwing attack. If you don't like Decoy for whatever reason, you can feel free to use Ballista instead. But the reason we went with Decoy is because Decoy can make you shadows. So when Decoy disappears, it can create 1 shadow, and we can have 3 decoys. So every 8 seconds when we cast it, we get 3 shadows after it detonates, and it does huge damage. And then our shadows throw a shuriken. So I mean, it's a huge, synergy for us, and that's why we went for it. We have 1 point in efficient construction, so that you have some mana efficiency. 5 points in boom, because it goes boom. You have 25% more multiplicative damage and 100% more area. Definitely an important 5 points for the damage output that it does. 3 points in short fuse, so that the final explosion does 15% more damage, but the duration of the decoys is about half what it normally is. 1 point in shrouded core for that shadow created per decoy. 2 points in burning oil, first to make night stacks to be applied. 2 points in meticulous construction, so that the final explosion damage is another 50% more. This increases the mana cost. Feel free to put more points here if you want, if you don't have any mana issues, but I like to use Synchronized Strike more than I like to use Decoy, and Synchronized Strike is expensive mana wise, so I didn't put any more than the 2 points that are required in order for us to get the 2 points in Grand Diversion for the extra decoys thrown, so that we'll get 3 shadows. And the final 4 points with excessive explosions, so that all explosions deal 60% more damage. Now again, you could take out these 4 points, put 3 of them in here and get 75% more damage, and then 1 more point in mana efficiency for about the same cost, and switch it up. It's completely up to you and how you want to build it. This is just what I went with. For shift, we're using it shift for a couple of things. 1, it creates 1 shadow for you every time you do it. 2, it throws a shuriken for you at the end of your shift in the direction that you shifted. 3, it basically doesn't cost any mana because you get the mana back with it. 4, you're invincible while you use it. 5, you get dodge, and 6, it throws massive blast for you. 7, you get haste afterwards. So I mean, come on, there's so many benefits for shift, especially in this build. Why would you not use it? We have 3 points in shadow recuperation, so that we get healed when we use it. 1 point in sleight of hand so that we throw a shuriken. Now I know what you're thinking, why didn't I put more points in that? Well, no matter how many points you put in that, it only throws 1 chakram. So you're only going to get 1 chakram, and it doesn't matter whether you put 1 point or 5 points in there, so we are not going to waste the other points, we're only going to put 1. 1 point in velocity for that more damage from your next skill that you use. 3 points in momentum for that haste buff afterwards. 1 point in lasting presence so that you create a shadow at the place you shifted from, and you can put another point in dancing shadow so that you create a shadow at the end of your shift. This is one thing that I will probably switch a point out to get. I'll probably take out an elusive point and put it there just so we can get 2 shadows instead of 1, because that's an extra chakram that will be thrown for free. We have 4 points in swift recovery so that the mana gained on use is 16. The actual cost to use it is 17, so you basically get the skill for free. 1 point in shadow slip so you're invulnerable while shifting. 2 points in elusive so that you get 60 dodge rating per point of dex that you have for 1 second after you've shifted. 2 points in parting gift and 2 points in arrival gift. And if you want more dex, you can get rid of the acid flask. Even though acid flask is a throwing attack and it scales a little bit with your damage, we're not spec'd into it, so it doesn't do much damage anyways. For Synchronized Strike, the reason that we're using this is because you get 4 shadows when you use it. Now it is super mana expensive, but it also gives shadows more damage, and what's nice about that is you can use Synchronized Strike, and then the shadows it creates, you can have them, and the other shadows you create with like Smoke Bomb and Shift, do more damage with their next attacks. So we have 3 points in dynamics to make the mana efficiency a bit better on it. The way we have it set up right now is a 62 mana cost, which is pretty expensive, and you don't have Shadow Cascade giving you the mana back per shadow consumed. So you're basically going to be using, you know, chakrams or shurikens afterwards to get all the mana back. Now shurikens is going to be a 0 mana costing skill, so thanks to the passives you get 10 mana every time that you use it, which is huge. So about 1 in 4 attacks you can throw this out. We have 4 points in Growing Darkness for 80% more area, 5 points in Foreshadowing so that shadows created within 4 seconds of using this skill will deal 200% increased damage, which is pretty huge because after you use this you have Smoke Bomb, Shift, and your decoys creating shadows that will do that 200% more damage. 1 point in Dark Ally so that you get that +2 shadow, so it now creates 4 instead of 2. 4 points in Shadow Fang for 32% more multiplicative damage. Basically all the points down here don't matter, do whatever you want with them. 2 points in Blade Prowess for that extra damage and poison chance, and 1 point in Last Call for some more damage against low life enemies. For Smoke Bomb, we have this set up defensively and to create shadows. We have 1 point Shrouded in Darkness and 2 points in Rapid Concealment so that we can get some Dust Shroud going, and that'll give us some Glancing Glow and some dodge rating. 5 points in Lingering Fumes because we want it to last as long as possible. 5 points in Smoke Blades so that our throwing attack damage gets a boost. 3 points in Blood Bandit so that we get some of that throwing leech, which is really useful. And 4 points in Umbral Assault so that we create a shadow every second that it's active. And then for Shurikens, we have 3 points in Alacrity for the attack speed, 1 point in Thin Shurikens so that you have 2 additional shurikens. This adds a mana cost, but when we get the Chakram we get more damage for every shuriken that we have, so you do want the extra projectiles as it will lead to more damage. 3 points in Charged Steel for that +9 lightning damage, 3 points in Scintillant Steel for that -3 mana cost. Even if you have -3 mana cost on both rings, you need this -3 mana cost so that you can also get the 1 point in Fan of Blades that adds 3 mana cost. That way you can still make it a 0 costing skill. If you don't want to put the 3 points here, you'll have to either not take Fan of Blades or not take Thin Shurikens, because once the mana cost is above 0, you no longer get the mana back gained from your passives, and then you run into problems or you won't be able to use Synchronized Strike with it. We have 1 point in Deep Cuts, 2 points in Weighted Projectiles, 4 points in Ethereal Blades for that Pierce chance, 1 point in Chakram. Chakram gets rid of the shurikens and instead gives you a 200% larger shuriken, which is now a chakram, and deals 30% extra damage, and it now returns to you. 1 point in Keen Throw means that for all those extra projectiles that you had, you get 10% more damage for each one. There are other ways you can play this skill. You can definitely, instead of chakram, go into getting the base crit chance up and then work your way towards having all your shurikens thrown in a line, and this way they can hit all of the same enemy. It's about the same amount of damage. We tested it briefly. However, I just like the big look of the lightning chakrams better, so that's why we went with it. For passives, we have 21 points in the base rogue class, 8 points in Swift Assassin, 2 points in Lethal Cadence, 4 points in Steady Hand, 1 point in Twin Blade, 5 points in Sapping Strikes, and 1 point in Critical Precision, 0 points in the Marksman, and 70 points in the Blade Master, with 8 points in Cloak of Shadows, 8 points in Pursuit, 6 points in Sky Synthesis, 8 points in Once, 1 point in Scarlet Stream, 4 points in Crimson Shroud, 1 point in Flash of Steel, 10 points in Weapons of Choice, and we went with a sword and a dagger to get that 150% crit multiplier, 6 points in Ozivon's Pact, 1 point in Perfection, 1 point in Confidence, 5 points in Exuberation, 5 points in Shadow Master, 1 point in Critical Eye, and 5 points in All In. For items, the idols that you want is you want added lightning damage with Shurikens, and increased damage of attacks used by shadows. Mix and match those, get as much of it as you can. We are wearing one unique where we're using the Riverbend Grasp, and that's because it can give you up to 100% increased throwing damage. It gives you flat health, a huge amount of dodge rating, and for every chance that you hit an enemy, you can throw an axe at them, which is just a little bit extra damage. We are doing a sword and a dagger. We have a Decity sword on with critical strike multiplier and increased critical strike chance. We also have chance to shock on hit and chance to apply frailty on melee hit. For our dagger, we have, and the reason we're wearing a dagger is because it comes with that base critical strike chance, which is not for melee or for spell. It's strictly for all of them, and that includes throwing, which is super nice. We were going to go dual dagger, but you lose out on a lot of crit multiplier, but if you want to have 100% crit chance, you can definitely wear 2 daggers. On this, we have critical strike multiplier, increased critical strike chance, chance to shock on hit, and chance to apply frailty on hit. For our chest, we went with increased damage buff skills used by shadows and increased throwing physical damage. We also went with Vite and Dex. For the helm, we went with set physical, set necrotic, increased damage of skills used by shadows, and increased throwing physical damage. For the amulet, we went with increased throwing attack damage. We went with fire damage, or throwing attack fire damage, and increased fire damage taken. We also went with flat health and elemental resist. The flat throwing fire damage is huge for the build. For the rings, we went with throwing attack physical damage and mana cost, along with throwing attack fire damage and increased fire damage taken. We did that on both rings along with health and elemental resist. And then for the belt, we have the bronze belt with set physical, set necrotic, health, and hybrid health. For the boots, we have set physical, set necrotic, increased movement speed, and hybrid health. And for the relic, we have set physical, set necrotic, elemental resistance, and flat health. And went with the radiant crest for that critical strike multiplier. For our character sheet, as you can see, our critical strike multiplier is at 732%, which is really nice and is what helps make it do a lot of damage. You'll be critting anywhere from 1 to 5k on the mobs. I've even seen it do a little bit more than that. It really depends the shadows you have active, if you're inside of the smoke bomb, and what all you got going on and how many buffs are up. We're running 40% dodge, 17% armor. We have our resistances pretty much all capped, and then for our damages, as you can see here, the crit multi at 730 and our throwing attack damage at 320%, along with physical damage being at 215. So for the skills, what I like to do is I like to put Decoy, Smoke Bomb, and Shift. I'll put all 3 of them on autocast. We'll just go ahead and set that up real quick, and then all you're going to do is just fire your Shurikens. And you can see you're getting lots of them. You get one for every shadow that's created. You just have them all over the place, and then when you use Synchronized Strike, you create a whole bunch of shadows, and boom, you have just Chakrams everywhere. And you can keep doing that as you use this and hit with your Chakram. You can see you're getting your mana back since it's a 0 mana costing skill. And against the dummy, you can see we're doing up to, I think, 30,000 damage is the highest I've seen it hit the training dummy. The explosions from the decoys are hitting for 50 or 60,000. They hit really hard. I'm pretty sure I just saw an 80,000 right there. It's hard to tell though. But yeah, and that's it. You just go around, use Synchronized Strike whenever your mana is full, and if it's not, you just keep using the regular one. You shift, you get an extra one. Like, There's just a bunch of them, and it's super fun to play, it's super fun to look at, and you just have attacks going everywhere all over the screen. It's fun to try and aim them. It's fun to, as you're running, to have them catch up to you and hit a whole bunch of enemies along the way. So definitely a lot of fun to play, the funnest build that I've played on Rogue so far. Alright, let's go ahead and get into some more gameplay.